Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining me today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNally. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Aspendale Gardens Primary School from Victoria. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the name of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Andrew Edward McDonald. Andrew McDonald was born in Bombala, New South Wales, on the 19th of March 1901, the son of John and Margaret McDonald. He grew up to work as a farmer around Monto in the North Burnett region of Queensland. McDonald enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 25th of June 1940 and joined the Australian Army Service Corps. The Australian Army Service Corps was an essential part of the Army, responsible for the transport and provision of supplies and rations, the management of personnel, mail delivery, transport resources for moving troops, maintenance, recovery and repair of machinery, vehicles, electronic equipment and weapons, and also catering. Private McDonald was troubled by illness during the first few months of his service. After periods of treatment and sick leave, he returned to duty and in October 1940 was taken on the strength of the 8th Division Ammunition Company. McDonald continued to be troubled by illness in February 1941 and shortly after was found absent without leave, receiving a fine as punishment. With tensions rising in the Pacific in early 1941, the British government looked to defend Singapore. As part of this build-up, the 8th Australian Division and its supporting corps began to arrive in February. With assets already committed to the build-up of Australian forces in the Middle East, 2 special transport companies and 2 motor ambulance convoys were raised to help fill the gap. McDonald was transferred to 3 Reserve Motor Transport Company, which was filled with men in the 35 to 45-year age group, many of whom were First World War veterans who understated their age to enlist. As they were intended for employment on dock clearance in Singapore, their age was not considered a handicap at the time. Embarking at Sydney on the 10th of April, McDonald arrived in Singapore a fortnight later. His unit was initially based in Johor State on the southern tip of Malaya, where it began training and was equipped with vehicles. From June, it began moving to northern Malaya. McDonald and his comrades were originally recruited for base deployment, but due to the lack of transport units, they found themselves deployed in support of the 11th Indian Division in the far north of the Malay Peninsula. In December, orders were received to adopt a first degree of readiness and to open fire on aircraft not established as friendly. As the Japanese swept through the Southeast Asia, McDonald's unit followed the Allied rolling withdrawal down the Malay Peninsula. On the 5th of January 1942, the unit was transferred from 11th Indian Division to 8th Australian Division, which was at last being relieved of protection duties and establishing a new line of defence in southern Malaya. As this line contracted towards Johor, the company was kept busy evacuating formations from Singapore and was itself finally concentrated there by the end of the month. Its final task of the campaign was to help move the main body of the 8th Division across the causeway, separating Johor from Singapore. The men of the company were then sent to Java to join the intended 1st Australian Corps, which was formed in Java from the 6th and 7th Divisions returning from the Middle East. As those divisions did not arrive in time, the company became part of a scratch brigade designated Black Force, which was soon run down in the Japanese invasion of Java after Dutch resistance collapsed. After surrendering on the 8th of February, the men were imprisoned in the bicycle camp at Batavia, where they remained under increasingly brutal divisions and conditions before moving to Singapore in early October. This move was the first step towards joining a force in Burma, working as forced labour on the Burma-Thailand Railway, starved of food and medicines and forced to work impossibly long hours in remote, unhealthy locations. By the time the railway was completed in October 1943, over 12,000 prisoners of war, including more than 2,700 Australians, had died. Among their number was Andrew McDonald, who was reported as dying of dysentery on the 7th of October 1943. He was 42 years old. Today, his remains lie in Tamboyosat War Cemetery alongside over 3,000 Commonwealth burials from the Second World War. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Andrew Edward McDonald, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.